All right, if you ever wondered what would happen if you took a handful of psychedelics and mixed it with Robert Eggers' The Witch, boy, I got the movie for you. All right, welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about the new Shudder film, Heresy. But before we do that, I just want to say thank you for clicking on today's video. And if you are new here, this is Movies with E, where we cover a lot of awesome movies coming out, whether it's horror, thrillers, comic book movies, action. We're going to do a little bit of everything here, but mostly focusing on those 4 genres. So if that sounds like something you are interested in, that subscribe button is down below. All right, Heresy basically follows a woman in this medieval Dutch village. She's having trouble getting pregnant. So not only is that one of her main conflicts here, we got the town of villagers who during that time, it's brutal back then. So just imagine that. And then if that's not all that's on her plate right now, she stumbles into a woods and meets a witch, which adds a little bit more conflict to her life. So starting off with the positives here, I do want to say, as the intro said, the psychedelic visuals, that this is really cool looking film. Not only, so we'll touch base on that psychedelic, but first of all, I just want to talk about like the contrasting, the colors, and the way it's shot. All really immerses you into that medieval time, kind of like Robert Eggers' The Witch. Now, Robert Eggers is on a whole scale of his own, and he really just captures that time period, whatever time period he's working in, whether it's that, the Northmen, the Lighthouse, Nosferatu. All of them have that unique style, but he is a king at that. But here, given its budget, it really almost matches that. And before we even dive in a little bit further, this isn't technically a movie from the Dutch. So overseas, this wasn't even a movie either. This is premiered on television. So if this is how their TV shows look, and if this is the quality, I'm actually kind of interested to see what else they're cooking up over there. But yeah, given its budget and the fact that this is a television movie overseas, that it really encapsulates you into this time period. The costumes, the set design, all translates very well on screen. The way it's shot, the way it looks too, is something that just immerses you. And there's tons of eye candy in this film if you are a fan of that aesthetic and genre. So we'll touch base with the psychedelic stuff in just a bit, but let's talk about our main actress. So the main actress is Aniek Slooters. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but she plays our character, our main protagonist, Frida. And she has one of those faces where I was like, she looks very familiar. And then when I looked up her and looked up this movie on IMDb and a couple other sites, I was just scrolling through her filmography and I was like, yeah, I don't think I've seen her in anything. But she just has that look where she looks familiar, fun fact. But besides that point, the way she carries this film, and the film is only 61 minutes long, so it's very short for a feature film. So you can look at it as a short film or a short long film or a long film that's on the shorter side. I don't know. But she carries this film. Every scene that she's in, whether it's dealing with her husband, the villagers, or even the witch, or more likely the white woman, because that's what this movie was technically called in Dutch. I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but I'll have it on the screen here, the original title of this film. But all 3 of those things when she's encountering them. So she does carry a really wide range of emotions during this film. And each minute you're with her, you're really feeling that tension, that dread, and the horrors that she's encountering throughout her journey. So basically, the plot is nothing new when it comes to the genre, the folk horror aspect of this. Usually when you get these medieval time witch pieces, they're kind of dabbling in religion and witches and the lifestyle back there, which is basically does. So Frida, the protagonist, is having trouble getting pregnant. So her and her husband are kind of going through that conflict together. So basically, when she's having this trouble, she's going about her day one night, and one of the villagers assaults her pretty much. And after that happens, she encounters a force that helps her. And after that happens, the town person goes missing, and they all blame her, Frida. And they start getting a little creeped out because back then you weren't supposed to enter into the woods. And the fact that she went into that woods and came out unscratched kind of sets the townspeople in a frenzy, starts blaming her to be the devil, or a witch or something along those lines, and she's getting attacked for that, verbally. They're like trying to get her out of there, and then they go looking for the missing townsperson. That's all I'll say on the plot, because it's more of a fun plot to kind of go through and watch, but that's basically the setup of this movie. So boom, when she does do that, so basically when she enters the woods and comes out, some shit's going down, and that's exactly what happens. So again, with the psychedelic visuals, that mostly happens into the woods. There's some really cool scenes where it almost actually reminded me of cosmic horror too, because you see some cool shots of space, you see some cool shots of the stars and galaxies all meshing together, dancing. I don't even know what was going on screen in front of me. All I knew was like, this was awesome. Some really cool eye candy going on when that happens, and you're just like in awe. But besides all that psychedelic stuff too, there's some really cool shots with over-the-shoulder creepiness too. So when she's getting saved by that force in the woods, there's something you can see over her shoulder kind of like creeping up towards her, and just the way that is executed was pretty creepy. Like you're just like looking, squinting, you see something, are those trees, are those branches? Oh no, that's a fucking witch. And there's a handful of scenes like that too, where you see stuff in the background come in and come out. You see a ghoulish body here and there creeping around corners, a hand sliding down a post. It's pretty creepy. So if you're into that, dread and those over-the-shoulder creepiness shots that are executed very well, definitely think you'll have a lot of fun with this one. And that's not all. There's this one scene when she's in the woods and there's like just huge fog, which also, I love fog. But yeah, there's huge fog, and you see all these like creepy things standing in there, and you're like, something isn't right in this woods. Let's leave, Frida. But she doesn't. Also, there's really one cool scene too, where the villagers stumble upon something. I won't go into detail what it is. You'll know when you see this, but it was really, really cool. It was wicked. It kind of had the feeling of Halloween, not the movie, but like the holiday. Like it kind of reminded me of those animatronics you see at Spirit Halloween store. Granted, this one was more brutal, but it still had that vibe because the way it moved, you could tell it was an animatronic, and it just had that old school style charm to it, and Halloween, the holiday feel to it. So it was really cool. That scene was just really cool. Like I said, you'll know when you come, but it was brutal. I was like, damn, when they stumble upon what they stumbled upon. It was moving still. It was in a tree, branches were coming out. So that's all I'll say, but you'll know when you stumble upon it. You'll be like, that's what Elliot was talking about, that scene right here. But yeah, that was really cool too. So a lot of the highlight of this movie is just the way it was shot, the way our director executed it. So overall, I did really enjoy the whole vibe and the whole aesthetic of this film. Like I said, the plot isn't anything new. It's simple enough. And the plot isn't anything new. It's something we're kind of familiar with if you've dabbled into, the witches and folk horror, kind of that era. So it was kind of, and there was some new elements sprinkled in, like I said, and the psychedelic shots too really add and increase it too. Overall, there was very little negatives to mixed feelings of this movie whatsoever, if I would say personally. The couple big ones that stand out to me too is just that 61-minute length. Now, that aspect I'm a little mixed on, because before I dive into that though, but for this being 61 minutes, it is tight packed. Like from beginning to end, we are on one journey with Frida. Nothing is overstayed. Nothing is filler scenes. Like we're just going full force, within 10, 15 minutes in this movie. That's when stuff starts to pick up. Besides that little, introductory phase where we're getting to know the characters. But this was so well done and executed, where I would have loved to dabble in this world for another 20, 30 minutes and see what this could have been as a 90-minute film. Now, did it need to be 90 minutes? No, like I said, I think they did a lot with the 61 minutes they were given. But like I said, it was just such a fun, immersive experience that I would have loved to see what another 20, 30 minutes of story could have done. I think if they did have 20, 30-minute story, a little bit more of the witch in the woods could have been carved out a little bit more, and a little bit more of the stuff that happens in that third act would have maybe made a tiny bit more sense. Now, would it have run into problems with a little too much filler, a little too much jargon? I don't know, but that's one of the mixed feelings. But it's also a positive too, because if it's late at night and you kind of want to watch something but don't have time for a movie and you're already caught up on all the television shows you're watching, this is something that will definitely fill in that gap of, okay, I don't want to be up too late, I gotta go to bed soon, but 61 minutes, I can fit that in. So yeah, the 61 minutes will fill that gap, like I said, late at night, craving some horror. This is definitely one that will scratch that itch. Another thing too was the use of CGI in this movie. Personally, for me, it didn't bother me too much. I was still just immersed, but I could see a few people leaning more towards the CGI, looking a little bit on the cheesier side. But that being said though, I personally thought, just given the budget and knowing that this was made for TV overseas, that the CGI looked good for that. But if you're looking for something more along the lines of realistic, I don't know if you'll entirely vibe with the CGI in this movie. But that being said, just still give it a shot, because I think if you everything you've heard up to this point, if you're vibing with and you're like, I gotta check this out, please do, because I think you'll still have a lot of fun with it. But I think it would have been cool to see a little bit more practical effects with the creature / witch design that we're given in that aspect. Like I said, there's that one cool scene that reminded me of the animatronics. The use of practical effects and CGI, I think, were really well balanced here, but I think it could have been enhanced a little bit more if the CGI was scaled back a little bit and they just went full on practical effects. But that's just, again, a tiny nitpick, and like, it didn't bother me too much, but I could see some people having it take them out of the movie just a tiny bit. But at the end of the day, I still think that this is definitely worth your time. And then another thing too was just the whole ending felt just a little bit abrupt, but it was still satisfying to a degree. So it's not one of those endings where I dislike the ending or I love the ending. I was just kind of met in the middle with how it resolved and how it just felt kind of abrupt. I was like, oh, okay. And it was much better because there was this one scene about probably 10-15 minutes before where it kind of does some cool stuff and then all of a sudden it fades to black, and I was like, there's no way that's the ending. And thankfully it wasn't. You get a little bit more, but then even when the ending did come, you're just like, okay. And it's something maybe like got to read up on a little bit, or maybe I have to rewatch the last half or so, but it kind of felt like it's just not satisfying enough. But again, nothing I entirely disliked or an ending that entirely ruined the movie. In fact, I feel like the ending kind of reminded me of Robert Eggers' The Witch a tiny bit. So again, the plot, everything in this movie isn't 100% original. And if you're used to watching those medieval folk horror movies involved with witches and religion, the old times, then this might not feel entirely fresh. But again, I will highlight the way it's executed, the way it's visualized, the visuals on the screen, everything. It does elevate it, and it does feel a little bit new and a little bit of a fresh take while still following the typical folk horror witch / tropes. So yeah, overall, this video is probably going to be on a little bit of the shorter side. The movie, like I mentioned, clocks in at 61 minutes, and that's even including the credits. So I don't have too much to talk about it, and I do want to keep this relatively spoiler free, just because I feel like it's one of those movies that are kind of making its way around the horror community, but not really. So if you haven't seen it, I don't want to give a lot of it away, because it's such a short film that if I expand too much, there's not going to be enough to fully explore while you're watching it. But those are just some of the quick highlights that I had and some of the mixed feelings that I had with it. But overall, if this is something that's up your alley and you enjoy these types of films, definitely give this one a shot. I think you'll really enjoy it. And come back to the YouTube video, leave a comment, let me know what you thought, what your favorite scene was, what you even thought about like the visuals of this film, because it's definitely, there's this one scene in particular that just is a psychedelic trip with this witch. So it's a lot of fun. So there we have it, my little quick review / thoughts on Heresy. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button. It lets me know that you're enjoying these kinds of movie reviews. If you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed yet, you know what to do. There's that button down below. Hit subscribe. I do have a video right here if you want to check it out. This is my latest video, April 2026 ranked. I had a lot of fun making it and looking forward to the May one, because we have some May heavy hitters coming. So this is all my reviews, not reviews, but my rankings of what the new releases I saw in April. And then I'll have Hokum video right here as well. So that's another folk horror type film that actually came out in theaters, and it's still out in theaters right now. So if you want to check those videos out, go ahead and do so. Again, appreciate the support so far. If you want to follow me on Letterboxd, see what I'm watching throughout the month, I'll have that in the description box below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Keep watching those movies, because those movies won't watch themselves.